The director of the next Star Wars film, due out sometime in 2026, is making news for how much she strives in every film she makes to make sure that she makes men feel uncomfortable. And she also thinks it's about time she makes her first non-documentary film, so why not try it out on a multi-$100 million blockbuster? Let's talk about that on That Park Place. I'm Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, where we talk about streaming, theme parks, entertainment, and video games. Today, we're talking about Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, the director of the untitled Star Wars film that's going to be starring Daisy Ridley as Rey Nobody Palpatine Skywalker of the Jakku Nobody Palpatine Skywalkers. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy has made multiple Oscar-winning documentaries about gender-based oppression in the Middle East. Truly commendable work. However, she seems to be using the same kind of language she would use to talk about husbands and fathers not mistreating their wives, to talk about male fans of a long-running space fantasy about wizards and robots. I say that's a bold strategy. Let's get into it. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy on directing Star Wars film, It's About Time a Woman Shaped a Story in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. This one by Armando Tinoco from Deadline. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is a two-time Oscar winner and the first female director of a Star Wars film. Having an iconic franchise in her hands thrills the filmmaker, as she says it was about time a woman took the reins of a project in the Star Wars universe. I'm very thrilled about the project because I feel that what we're about to create is very special, Obaid-Chinoy told CNN. We're in 2024 now, and it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape a story in a galaxy far, far away. Now, I'm just going to do a Control F on this article here and look for Marsha Lucas. It's interesting. Marsha Lucas does not show up in this article. Interesting. Does anybody know who Marsha Lucas is?
Not familiar. I do apologize.
Kara, do you know who Marsha Lucas is?
Everyone. I'm going to take a wild guess and say, is there any relation to George Lucas?
Yes. Marsha Lucas was this amazing editor that was married to George Lucas at the start of the Star Wars films. And things got a little rocky by the end of it there. After creating three of the biggest films of all time, and dedicating your life to making a film like this, things can get a little rough there. I do believe that she left, and the guy who did the stained glass at Skywalker Ranch, the two of them might have gotten together by the end of this. Now, that detail notwithstanding, Marsha Lucas is the person who edited the Star Wars films and fixed them. It's well documented that Star Wars was a movie that was fixed in editing. And she was a person that was editing for the likes of Francis Ford Coppola and other amazing directors that were in that. What's the words? Is it cinema noir? Not noir. New wave. All of these directors coming in and doing these revolutionary styles of filmmaking here in the late 70s. It's funny to watch Coppola's first film. I forget what it's called. Maybe it was Finnegan's Rainbow, and then you get to something like The Godfather. These guys that they're given the keys to the kingdom here, and what do? They hire Marsha Lucas. She's also a person that's kind of been erased from the Star Wars trilogy because of her relationship with George Lucas. I think he really got hurt that this woman that he ignored while making the Star Wars films, maybe they lost the connection there, but she. I'll give you, for instance, she was the one who killed Obi-Wan Kenobi. She was the one who came in and said, what if we have Obi-Wan Kenobi die in this act? And then, of course, in the final act, instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi sitting there with his earpiece going, use the Force, Luke, now we have the Force ghost of Obi-Wan Kenobi reaching out through the Force and saying, trust your feelings, all these things. It is a patently ridiculous thing. And I kind of compare this to Rachel Zegler going on the purple carpet there at D23 saying, well, it's not 1937 anymore. I get it. I get it that maybe there hasn't been a big name attached to the director's chair on these Star Wars films, but who is in charge of Star Wars right now? Just overall.
Kathleen Kennedy, of course.
And would anyone say that these films have gotten better since she's taken the reins there at Lucasfilm?
If you think
that's a hard no,
you haven't been drinking enough.
No, I don't think so.
Little did they know that Kathleen Kennedy was the inspiration for Oga's Cantina.
That's funny. That's Oga. Okay, now I get it. I get it now.
Sense.
This bugs me so much. The idea of somebody coming in here and, I get it. Okay, I'm not against a female director. There have been some great films that were directed by female directors, but generally I find out after the fact if it's a female director, because guess what? Unless it's somebody that I know about, I don't care their gender. When I look up at the celluloid, the film does not care if it is a female director. The film cares what the film is, right?
Well, I mean, I'm surprised that she's so kind of mean-spirited about it too. So it's not just like, well, I'm a woman, hear me roar, I'm going to do some amazing things, this is going to be awesome. She kind of goes out of her way to kind of almost attack men, right? And
she does.
Obviously this quote from the Woman in the World Summit, right, is going around, and she's all like, oh, I like to make men uncomfortable, and I like to tell them that they're a-holes. Well, oh, I'm sorry. I do apologize, Jonas. I didn't know.
No, that's okay. Perfect segue.
There you go.
Yep. This one out of That Park Place from John F. Trent. Upcoming Star Wars director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable. Lorena, Kara, I happen to notice that you're women.
Yes.
Does it make you want to watch a film if you heard that a male director said, I want to make women uncomfortable? I enjoy making women uncomfortable. What would your impression be of that man, especially if he was in the room with you?
First of all, they need professional help, and second of all, no, I'm not going to see your film. And it makes me wonder, what is it about you that you're projecting this onto everyone else? And I actually spoke about this on the Dark Council show last night on Fatal J's channel. When you hear this woman talk, it sounds like it's more about her projecting onto a group of people. Like we were saying earlier, and I forget if it was Jonas or if it was Vash who said this, it would have been different if she was like, I'm a female director. I am so excited about getting my hands on Star Wars and coming up with something you guys have never seen before. I'm just anxious to get in there and just give the fans what they want. That's a different type of energy. With this, she is basically not only talking down to the audience in general, but she's thumbing her nose at the majority of the Star Wars fan base, which is male, that's just a fact, that I want to make you uncomfortable. My question is why? What is it about you that you feel you have to, quote unquote, make men feel uncomfortable?
I think it's her own insecurities.
Absolutely.
I think her own insecurities. She doesn't have, I think she has a lot of pent up anger from situations she's probably been in the past, and she doesn't know how to kind of cope with it. So it's just kind of stirred, and she's allowing that to kind of guide her through life in not a very positive manner. She could definitely take that energy, that anger that she obviously has towards men, and put that towards something good. But she's choosing the dark side of the Force on this one, and
well said.
That's a good one. Yeah.
The thought that occurs to me, if a man said something equivalent like that to my daughter, I would hope that she would call me so that I could have a talk with that gentleman and maybe report him to the police. That it's really creepy, honestly, to me, this kind of a statement. Let's read a little bit more of what was said here. As an activist and an artist, I should say that this is John Stewart asking her a question. As an activist and an artist, do you make that calculation? Who is my target? You talked a little bit about, I want women to watch this and I want them to feel empowered. I want my daughter to have heroes. I couldn't help but notice a thread through each of these, that men are a-holes. And I'm wondering, as one of them, what is the balance of activating? And that's if Jon Stewart wants to claim that, that's fine. What is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? There's that wonderful word, the patriarchy. And is that a part of my calculation?
One thing to bring up is what this woman's focus on is in her previous works. Like, she's mainly focused on the patriarchy of like Middle Eastern countries that she is from and how their treatment of women is. So that's all that she knows, is kind of that treatment of women. She thinks that's normal for all men, and not that it's just kind of accepted in the country that she's in. So she thinks it's everybody, and does not she doesn't have an open mind to it at all. She's very single focused on one particular aspect of men, and wants to and take it out on them.
And I hate to use Google it as a response to somebody's argument, but if there's anybody out there who doesn't see the difference between the patriarchal structures of the Middle Eastern countries right now, in generally, I'm speaking generally here, and the United States and its equal rights, with some questions about how things run, I would say that you need to go look up how gender roles are played out in a lot of Middle Eastern nations right now.
And to kind of add to that, Jonas, in the clip where she did speak with Jon Stewart, where she talks about the patriarchy, then she stops and says, "No, I'm not talking about you." I'm like, wait a minute, you are talking about him. So it's like, don't qualify it with that, because not only is she talking about him, the even more aggravating point is Jon Stewart kowtowing to this.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I know we're a-holes and all this. Like, no, you are for, letting her run roughshod over you with this opinion, that she has, that for some reason she has to make men feel, uncomfortable. It just feeds into the narrative that Hollywood has of right now. If you want to get your next job, guess what? You have to trash men in order to do it. And we've seen this happen before. We've seen it with Kenobi, with Moses Ingram. We've seen it with other Star Wars shows where they will start talking about, well, we're going to whatever, and men are this, and just basically trashing men. Then when men don't show up to watch this, and women who don't show up to watch this because we don't want to see our fathers, brothers, husbands, nephews getting demonized, then all of a sudden they have a problem. And they say, oh, you know what? It failed because you didn't support it. Seriously?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And we know from the demographic breakdown of who went to go see the Marvels that it was actually a majority of men that went to go see the Marvels. So when no one shows up to these kind of films, it's usually, when I say no one, when almost no one shows up, it's generally men that show up to these kinds of films. And if they do somehow find that female audience, I mean, good for them. They've wasted billions of dollars trying to find that female audience when they could have just spent it on something that already kind of was leaning towards having a female audience.
Well, remember what Kathleen Kennedy said at the last Star Wars celebration, for example. She was asked directly, what are your qualifications to hiring somebody and getting them attached to a project to develop a Star Wars movie or a project or whatever? What are your main qualifications for doing that? And she says, without, straight face, without, blinking an eye, she says, well, it all comes down to what you want to say, right? That was the qualification. Not that you were a big Star Wars fan, not that you actually wanted to contribute something to the actual universe itself, not that you wanted to kind of retell a story or tell a story. It was what you wanted to say. And she's basically talking about the activism. And now with this new director here, well, we know what she wants to say. And this is the evaluation process and criteria going forward. It's absolutely horrendous. It's almost like they're hell-bent on destroying Star Wars. It is wild.
Yeah, if you go back to remember what sorry, Jonas, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Like
go ahead.
With Leslie Headland, you remember the hot takes with her, her on the mic and her things about the patriarchy. And I remember one segment, I forget where it was, where they asked her, they said, well, what's your favorite Star Wars movie? She's like, I don't know all of them. No. If you are a true
That's
fan,
not how that works.
No, it's not how that works. That's not how Star Wars fandom works. And she thought that was perfectly okay. It's just like, you don't That right there tells you just how much regard. If they asked you and you didn't know, you'd be like, well, I don't know quite which one. I haven't seen them all, but you know what? Once I see them all, I'll be able to tell you which one it is that, that I like. Which fans would say, okay, yeah, I get that. I understand that. Not that I don't know all of them.
Yep. I love this from Fletcher Williams. That's not how the Force works. So as Bob Iger has said, that he considers the Disney company to be quieting the noise, and as DC right now has just released their last Zack Snyder influenced film, and they're hoping to do a reboot here. I'm of course hoping that we'll see more of Blue Beetle in the coming DC regime. It's taken a very long time since Zack Snyder stopped making films for Warner Brothers to finally get this stuff out of the chute. And this film isn't even supposed to come out until 2026. So 2 years and then some change before we're going to finally see the product of what Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is putting on celluloid here. It's digital. I'm using celluloid as a stand-in symbolically here. So I guess my last question is, where we're wrapping this one up here, is, do you think this film is actually going to be made?
No. And if it is, it will be for like $300, $400 million, and it's going to lose a lot of money.
And just to put the emphasis on that, Force Awakens, I think we have the receipts on this one. If you want to go check out some of our coverage, that movie might have cost $500 million to make. So let's go Vash and then Lorena, because Lorena, I think we don't have you for very long here. So
real quickly, it's astounding just how much money they pour through and creatives that they just kind of churn out here through development development hell and so forth, and getting projects made almost and not really, and it all kind of drops off right there. Given the track record, it's a low percentage chance that this actually gets made. But if it does get made, Kara is exactly spot on. It'll probably be made for $300 or $400 million, not make any money, and we'll have another box office disaster, not unlike Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm. Lorena, do you want to finish this up and also tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. In a way, I think this movie will get made, and I want it to get made because the failure of Lucasfilm will be complete. I mean, I like to see train wrecks, and this is one train wreck I think is going to go through completely. So I really think they just have the hubris that they will put this film out there and think that it's gonna do great, and it's not. So I'm there all for it. So I think that's what's gonna happen. So.
Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is going to be directing this movie by the time it comes out in 2026? Or will this one go the way of Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron movie? Tell us your thoughts, because we would love to know. This clip was part of our now regular Thursday live stream, which starts at noon Eastern time. Of course, if you're not in that time zone, just hit the notification bell if you'd like YouTube to just tell you when that is. Like this video if you like this video. If you know someone who is as interested as we are in this kind of nerdy thing, then maybe you should share the link with them. And of course, please consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.